Hi guys, it's April, and I promised you a word dump over the Lunar Chronicles series, and today I will bring you that. I will warn you now that a lot of this is going to be spoilery because I am talking about a series and I want to get some of my thoughts out. So as soon as I put down the Cinder book, if you haven't read this series, go away, come back after you have read it, and let's talk. I want to talk. Now, the Lunar Chronicles series by Marissa Meyer starts out with Cinder. My journey to this series is a weird one. I picked up this book when it was originally released, and it sat on my shelf for the whole time until I started BookTube. BookTube, you made me read my books! How dare you! Cinder is a story about a cyborg who follows the storyline of Cinderella. It is set in a future society in which at some point we have colonized the moon and they have just taken on features of their own and kind of become their own race. But this also puts them at odds with people still down on Earth. At the same time, there's this weird disease epidemic going around, starting to kill people with no cure. So, the Lunar Queen, Queen Levana, proposes a marriage arrangement in which the Earth and the Moon are united and a cure is found. The whole series, each book, follows different fairy tales. The first one, of course, Cinder, follows Cinderella. Then you have Scarlet, that follows Red Riding Hood. Cress, that follows Rapunzel, and then Winter, which is Snow White. They are such a whimsical, very nostalgic kind of read for me. They're fluffy, and the little kid in me gets excited about this book. And the characters are amazing. You meet this whole cast, and the way Marissa Meyer handles it, I really enjoyed, and I pretty much loved them all, even though some of them I chose a little more than others. So if you like retellings, you like sci-fi, you'll probably like this book. You'll like the whole series. What am I talking about? You'll like the whole series. Like I said, my journey into reading all of these books was weird. BookTube, of course, made me read this back in January. I read it in an evening, and then the next day had to go out and pick up the rest of the books, which surprisingly, Fairest was on the shelf when I went to pick up Scarlet and Cress, and got really excited because it was a week before the release. Proceeded to binge all of them and have to wait for Winter to come out. That's how much I enjoyed this series, guys. So if you don't think it's worth the read, that in and of itself should tell you that you need to read this if you like fairy tales and science fiction. I will go into some feels and I will journey through each of the books themselves. So if you haven't read any of them yet, like I said, go read them. Go. And then come back. Come back. And then we'll talk. It'll be great. Now, Cinder, the first book in the series. You see Marissa Meyer's love for Sailor Moon in this first book. It isn't a huge impact of that part of her fandom, but you can tell just by the princess who doesn't know who she is, finding out that she is the princess of a kingdom on the moon. That is Sailor Moon in a nutshell. But I like how Marissa Meyer threw all the fairy tales in there, threw in science fiction, and made it her own. But at the same time, I love those like little pieces of the Sailor Moon fandom that if you know what you're looking for, you can see it. I mean, the whole cast of characters, how they come together, and just, oh, it's so much. It's so much. Now in Cinder, I would have to say my favorite character by far is Aiko. Aiko is an amazing piece of machinery, and I couldn't have written a better friend for Cinder. She's probably the whole reason I really, really, really enjoyed this book. I won't lie, Scarlet was probably my least favorite of the series, but that isn't saying much because it still got a 4-star review from me. I think it's because Scarlet was a harder character to get into and to really like understand, but after nearly almost the end of the book, I started to enjoy her character and all of that stuff, but the real reason that I like this book would be Captain Thorn. This is where we finally get to meet Captain Thorn. Captain Thorn has my heart. Aiko and Captain Thorn, probably some of my favorite characters of the whole series. I don't even know. Yep, that's a thing. I won't lie, Cress in her own right is kind of amazing. Just thinking of what that kind of isolation can do to a mind and how she keeps this like innocence, I guess, is kind of the Rapunzel character. Just the way she and Thorn, just the click and the interactions between them. Ah, yeah, that was great. They're probably my favorite couple in the series is Cress and Thorn, even though, yeah, I'll get to them next. But, yeah, that. And then we got this little short story that's nearly 200 pages. I don't know how that's a short story. But Lavanna, I don't think this book was meant to make us feel sorry for Lavanna in any way. I think it was more to understand her character, not to feel sympathy for her. I liked getting that backstory and seeing where everybody came from and how everyone's interconnected. You don't necessarily get that in the story as you read it. So getting this little piece of Lavanna's life and how she became queen and how she is connected to Cinder and to Winter, I think it was a good move to put this one out. But that's my opinion. I've heard it both ways, but I'm always of the camp I like to know more. So when those short stories come out next year, even though I've read them all already, I'm gonna be picking those up. And then Winter, the last book in this series. I was not expecting to like Winter in the least. When I first read the excerpts on the back of Fairest and saw the crazy that was Winter, I'm like, this is going to be a Drusilla character. And I don't know if I can get behind that. But after picking up this book, I don't. She is now on my favorite list. I know Jakin is not that lovable of a character, but I really like how he interacts with Winter, and they are probably my second favorite couple of the series. So it'd be like Cress and Thorn, and then Jason and Winter, and then if Kai and Cinder ever happen, if that ever becomes a thing, maybe. And then, of course, there's Wolf and Scarlet. That dynamic seems... that could become an issue if not kept in check. Stages of walking through that series. That's kind of where my thoughts went, going through all of those books. I don't know if this random rant was any use to anybody, but I had to get words out. If you haven't read the series, I don't know why you're at this point in the video, but you need to. Everyone who can hear me that hasn't read the series, go read it now. Heart your beautiful faces. Bye.